Welcome to Storycraft Portal, where every story is more than just words. It's an experience that touches the deepest corners of your heart. Today, we bring you a tale hidden in the folds of time, a story that was forgotten for 37 years. No one spoke of it, no one searched for it, until fate took an unexpected turn and everything changed. Jim Morrison, the legendary rock icon who burned bright and vanished too soon, had a bust placed at his grave in Paris, a tribute to his legacy. But one day, that bust was stolen and then lost to history. People assumed it was gone forever, until now. In 2025, during a routine police search, officers stumbled upon something in an old furnace. Burnt, broken, but unmistakable. It was the bust, and it still carried the soul of Morrison's music, the weight of memory, and the silence of decades. This wasn't just a piece of stone. It was 37 years of longing, of loyalty, of unresolved emotion, finally returned. Paris, 2025, a city of history, art, and hidden secrets. A routine police search in a forgotten industrial warehouse near Montmartre was supposed to be just another dull task, until Officer Laurent noticed a strange iron furnace sealed shut with rust and dust of decades. Inside, something called out, not with sound but with presence. As they cracked it open, the air thickened with an eerie stillness. And there was a charred, broken bust. At first glance, just an old sculpture, but something about those features, the wild hair, the intense eyes, felt hauntingly familiar. The officer, a music lover himself, whispered, "Jim Morrison?" The room fell silent. Could it be? The legendary singer's long-lost memorial piece, stolen in 1988 and never recovered? Questions swirled like smoke. Who took it? Why hide it here? And why now? After 37 years, had it finally returned? The bust was taken to the precinct's evidence room, but something about it made the officers uneasy. Officer Laurent kept staring at its face, not out of admiration, but a strange pull he couldn't explain. That night, security footage caught something odd. The lights near the bust flickering, a shadow passing without a source. Old case files were dug up, yellowed papers from 1988, when the bust vanished from Jim Morrison's grave in Père Lachaise. Witnesses back then claimed they saw a hooded man lurking near the tomb the night before it disappeared. No one was ever caught. The case went cold. But now, after all these years, why was the bust hidden in a furnace instead of being sold or displayed? Something didn't add up. Officer Laurent couldn't shake the feeling, like the sculpture had returned not to be found, but to tell a story no one had dared to hear. Officer Laurent visited Père Lachaise cemetery the next morning, hoping to connect the dots. Morrison's grave hadn't changed much. Graffiti, candles, and flowers still marked it as a place of pilgrimage. But as Laurent stood there, an elderly man approached him. "You found it, didn't you?" he asked without introduction. Choqued, Laurent nodded cautiously. The man introduced himself as Etienne, a retired groundskeeper. He claimed to have seen the theft back in '88, but never came forward. "They told me not to," he whispered. He was taken by someone, not for money, but to silence him. The words chilled Laurent. Etienne handed him an old Polaroid photo, a blurry image of the bus being loaded into a black van. A van with no license plate. Laurent looked up, but the man had vanished. Just like that. And all that remained was a photo and 1,000 new questions. The blurry Polaroid led Laurent deep into the city's art underworld. He visited an old art historian, Madame Leonore, who specialized in stolen memorials and underground collectors. When she saw the bust photo, her expression changed instantly. This belonged to the archivist," she whispered, a shadowy figure known for hoarding stolen relics with emotional significance. "He never sold them. He believed some pieces carried souls," she added, locking eyes with Laurent. The bust had surfaced in rumors before, once in 1996 in Prague, then again in 2003 in Lisbon, always vanishing before anyone could confirm. He hid it because it wasn't just stone to him, Leonore said. Laurent began to understand. This wasn't just a cold case. It was personal to someone obsessed with Morrison's spirit. And if the bust had returned, maybe the archivist had finally lost his grip, or worse, wanted it to be found. Laurent reviewed the warehouse's property records and found it once belonged to a man named Marcel Reynaud, now deceased, known to be a reclusive art handler with ties to the archivist. He had died in a fire 12 years ago, in that very same warehouse. But the fire was ruled an accident, despite strange inconsistencies. Surveillance logs showed the night before the fire, Marcel had arrived with a large, cloth-covered object, the bust. The logs ended abruptly. The furnace hadn't just been a hiding spot. It was where Marcel tried to destroy the bust. But why? Had something gone wrong? Or had he changed his mind at the last second, saving it from destruction? Forensic reports found traces of wax, ash, and human hair in the furnace. Something where someone had tried to silence what the bust held. But now it had survived the fire and come back to speak. Back at the station, Laurent sat alone with the bust, documents spread across his desk, but his focus stayed fixed on those empty stone eyes. That night, something strange happened. In the silence, the air around him felt heavier, colder. Then, faint but clear, music. "This is the end." Morrison's haunting voice echoed softly, though no device was playing. Shaken, Laurent checked the room. Empty. But the feeling remained. The bust wasn't just art. It was a vessel. He found a hidden inscription underneath, barely legible. Echoes of the Lizard King. That was Jim's nickname. More than memory, this piece had been part of him, maybe even containing something of him. Laurent recorded every detail. If someone had tried to burn it, they weren't just hiding a theft, they were burying something sacred. And whoever the archivist was, he knew, because this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Laurent's research took him to the heart of Paris' forgotten alleys, places where whispers lived longer than memories. He visited a private collector who once claimed to have seen the archivist. "He never speaks, only listens," the man said, trembling, but his eyes always watching. The collector had photographs from a 1996 underground exhibit in Prague. In one frame, blurry and dim, was the bust surrounded by lit candles. In the background, a man in shadows, eyes reflecting the flame. Was it the archivist? Laurent chest tightened. The bust had traveled not as stolen property, but as a relic, worshipped, preserved. But the ritual always ended with its disappearance. He said it was never meant to stay in one place, the collector added. Too dangerous. Laurent left, knowing one thing. This wasn't theft. It was obsession. A dangerous devotion to something more than music, to something that was never alive, but never quite dead. A breakthrough. Facial recognition software matched the mysterious figure in the photo to a man named Adrien Delacourt, missing since 2004. Adrien was a once-renowned sculptor who vanished after claiming he could trap souls in stone. Records showed his final known commission, restoring Jim Morrison's original bust, just before it disappeared. Laurent found Adrien's last known address, a crumbling estate outside Paris. Inside were scattered sketches, strange notes. The spirit must rest. The vessel must remain hidden. On the wall hung a large photograph of the bust, surrounded by handwritten lyrics. But most haunting was a recording tape labeled Requiem for the Lizard King. Laurent played it. At first, silence. Then Morrison's voice again, distorted, mixed with Adrien's whisper. "He's watching me. I made a mistake." Adrien had believed he opened something he couldn't close. Laurent now feared. Maybe the bust wasn't found, maybe it escaped. Delacourt's final writings described a return ritual, a way to silence the relic's pull. It involved fire, wax, and isolation. He never finished it. Laurent realized Marcel Reynaud tried, but failed. That explained the furnace, the wax, the human hair. Someone tried to end it, but the bust resisted. Laurent returned to Morrison's grave, placing the bust beside it, hoping to return home. As night fell, the cemetery grew still. The ground trembled slightly. Candles flickered. Then, a figure emerged from the dark, cloaked, silent, eyes glowing. The archivist. He didn't speak, only stepped forward and placed a vinyl record at the grave. It read, "Peace for the king." He nodded once to Laurent and vanished into the shadows. The bust remained, but the air changed. A calmness spread. Laurent didn't know if it was truly over. But for the first time, the stone felt at rest. The bust was secured in the cemetery under supervision, this time sealed with both physical protection and something deeper, respect. The case was officially closed, stolen memorial, recovered artifact. But for Laurent, the truth went far beyond paperwork. Adrien Delacourt's body was never found. The archivist was never identified. And yet, something told him their purpose was fulfilled. Morrison's fans came and wept before the restored bust. None of them knew how close it came to being lost forever, or what it had endured. As Laurent watched from afar, he thought of one line. "This is the end, beautiful friend." Maybe not the end, but a kind of peace. A relic once filled with torment now radiated stillness. Whatever haunted it, the fire, the whispers, the obsession, had finally gone quiet. The case was closed, but some echoes never truly die. They just find a place to rest.